Yes, good afternoon, students. Let us continue from where we left yesterday. Okay, so we had a talk regarding all these things. Okay, fine. Okay, so let us continue from where we left yesterday. I was discussing about the section of the ovary. I was discussing, okay, and the section of the ovary is having different stages of the follicles. Okay, so if you look at this diagram very carefully, okay, you'll see that. You'll see that this is the structure of the ovary, which is a, you can see that section is being cut, okay, and you have the blood vessels entering, we have the veins and the arteries entering in this region, okay, and you have the different levels of the follicles present over here, okay. Now let me explain you what these follicles are. These are the structures which are surrounding the ovum, okay. So yesterday we discussed that how the ovum formation has happened, okay, through the process of meiosis. And again, it is very interesting that the meiosis 1 is arrested in the fetal ovary when the birth of the child happens. Okay, the process is arrested in the prophase 1 stage of meiosis 1. Okay, after this stage, the puberty is attained. Okay, till that time, till the time when the birth of a female child happens, and till the time of the puberty, the development or the division stage of the ovum is arrested in the prophase 1 stage. Fine, and then you have, once the puberty is attained due to the different hormonal things in the blood vessels in the blood, okay, the division continues, and these are the follicles being formed. So yesterday we even talked about this graphical representation also. So in this graph, I told you yesterday, this is the graph that is showing you at one go like 4 processes happening together. Okay, so what are the 4 processes that are happening together? On one side you have what's happening inside the ovary. So you have what's happening inside the ovary. So you have the development of the follicles happening, right? So what are these follicles? Now, this is the ovum structure. Okay, it is having its haploid nucleus inside it. Okay, around these ovum structure, you have different layers of the cells, granulosa cells, which keep on developing around this ovum structure like that. Okay, and these structures are known as the developing follicles. These are known as. So you have the primary follicle, you have a secondary follicle, you have a tertiary follicle, and you have a mature Graafian follicle. Now you can see in this graphical representation, when the follicle level is increasing till the time around, you can say half the midway of the menstrual cycle, okay, the LH is immediately increased, okay. This process, this time at which the LH is increased is known as the LH surge, it is known as, okay, SURGE. What is this LH surge? This is the time at which the maximum release of the luteinizing hormone is happening. Okay, at that time the ovulation takes place. What is ovulation? Yesterday also I told you that ovulation is the release of the ovum from the ovary. When the Graafian follicle is reached, the ovum is released from the ovary, and that happens nearly around. If you look at that graph, okay, it is happening nearly around the 14th day, right? So it is happening nearly around the 14th day. Ovulation is happening, and this ovulation is associated with the LH surge on one side. On the other hand, it is also associated with the ovarian hormone. Ovaries start developing hormone also, and the level of the estrogen is very high during the time of the ovulation. So these things are all related and connected to each other. This one graphical representation in front of you can fetch you around 40 MCQ questions, more than that, I think, okay? And a lot, many number of subjective questions from just this one particular graph, okay? So during the ovulation process, what's happening? The ovarian hormone, that is the estrogen hormone, that is having the highest level. It is having again around the 14th day. And what's happening to the uterus muscles? What's happening to the uterus at that moment? That's also interesting. So yesterday also I told you that as and when the ovum is getting released from the ovary, okay? From the ovary, it reaches the fallopian tube region. From the fallopian tube region, it gets over there for 2 to 3 days. Till that time, if the fertilization is happening, okay, if the sperm is present in the region of the fallopian tube and the fertilization does happen, then the growing embryo will get implanted in the uterus. It is necessary that as and when the ovulation is happening, the uterus muscles should keep on developing itself. The number of blood vessels, the mucus, the extra layer of the endometrium, that should all be formed. So you can see very clearly in this region from 7th to 14th day, right, there is an increase in the thickness of the endometrium. This is the endometrium that they are showing, okay? And that is again because of this high level of the estrogen. One more thing is happening very interestingly in this. Once the ovulation has happened, what is left behind? It's a corpus luteum that is left behind. Okay. Now, this corpus luteum starts liberating a hormone that is called the progesterone hormone. As soon as the ovulation has happened, whatever is left behind, that is the Graafian follicle, doesn't have an ovum inside it, we start calling it a corpus luteum. And now this ovarian structure is actually a structure that starts producing a hormone, right? What is that hormone? It's a progesterone. That is all, these things are all linked to it. LH has gone down because the ovulation has happened. You can see the blue line coming down. FSH has also gone down because the follicles have also matured sufficiently. But what is increasing? The estrogen level is increasing. Why? Again, estrogen is going down, but what is increasing is the progesterone level that is increasing. And the reason is that the development of the corpus luteum after the ovulation process is now producing the progesterone. So you have the highest level of progesterone at the time when the development of the corpus luteum is happening. Okay. And this progesterone is again related to the uterine function. And this progesterone helps in the maximum, you can say, the development, maximum thickness of the endometrium is reached at the point when there is a maximum secretion of the progesterone hormone. So I think it's very clear from this graphical representation when we talk about. So if I once again just divide this whole menstrual cycle into 3 different phases, 4 different phases, okay. So the first phase is a menstrual phase, okay. So it starts like with the when the progesterone level goes down, okay, the endometrium starts shedding, and there's a loss of the blood and the blood vessels and the mucus and all those things. So we talk about as it. You can see over here, everything 29 and 1. It's overlapping. The ending of the one menstrual cycle and the start of another menstrual cycle, okay. There's 29 and 1 they are written over here. And then for nearly 5 days, the menses happens, okay. After that, you have the follicular phase, or also known as the proliferative phase, the time when the follicles are developing inside the ovary, right? In between, around the 14th day, you have the ovulation process. When the ovulation is done, then you have the luteal phase that is also called the secretory phase, because this is the time when the secretion of the progesterone hormone has started, okay? And this secretion of the progesterone hormone leads to the maximum thickness of the endometrium lining, and this endometrium lining is actually because of what you can say, the endometrium lining is because of the release of the progesterone. Okay. So this diagrammatic representation, this whole thing, it generally comes as 3 marker and a 5 marker question also. And there can be, you can be asked to draw the complete menstrual cycle to explain the complete menstrual cycle, or they can be asking specifically what happens around 14, 15 day, what happens around 25, 29 day, what happens around first, 5th day. So there can be the multiple questions that can be asked. So just go thoroughly through this thing and practice this diagram. This diagram also fetches you good amount of marks. Okay. Fine. So after the menstrual cycle, we come to the structure and the structure of the ovum, obviously, and we talk about once the ovulation has happened, now what happens? Okay. So once the ovulation has happened, the ovum reaches the region that is called the fallopian tube part. Okay. I'll just share my whiteboard with you to explain you in a better way. So you have, you can see the screen. It's showing that it is loading. Once again, I'll share it. Let us see. Is my screen shared? Is anybody there on the other side? So you can tell me, because it's showing that the screen share is loading. Yeah. I think now it is.
Yeah, now it is visible, ma'am.
Fine. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the whole phase of this thing, okay, let me just draw one diagram for you all. Okay. This I'm drawing not a thing like a schematic representation. I'm trying to explain it through. Okay. So this is a structure, and you have the uterus part is there, okay, and then you have the fallopian part. This is a tube-like structure, okay. Now in this region, the ovary is located. Fine. Now what happens is that during the ovulation process, the ovum is released from the ovary, okay, and this is the part, the fimbriae part, of finger-like projections over here, and this is the region That is a fallopian tube region it is, right? The fallopian tube in common, it is also known as oviduct, it is known as. So what happens to the ovum once it is there in the fallopian? There's a ciliated apparatus present in this region that allows the ovum to move in this direction, right? It moves in this direction, it moves in this direction until the time where around the isthmus is present, isthmus region of the fallopian tube and the ampulla of the fallopian tube, somewhere in between. Sorry, I got disconnected. I'm again sharing my whiteboard with you. Okay, so if I draw this diagram again for you, you have this region and a slight this thing, right? And you have this part which is a fimbriae part, okay? And then you have the uterus part over here. This is the uterus part is there, okay? And then you are having again a fimbriae part. So what I was explaining is that the ovary is located over here. It releases the ovum on the 14th day, right? The ovum is a haploid cell, gamete it is, okay? And the ovum starts moving in this direction. It starts moving in this direction, and somewhere or the other near the junction of the isthmus and the ampulla, region of the fallopian tube, okay? It waits over there for maybe 72 hours or 48 hours to 72 hours, most of the books are mentioning, okay? And it waits for the sperm to reach that region for the process that is known as the fertilization process, right? So now I think it's clear in your mind what's happening. So this is the time we say that the fertilization is happening. So what is that day? Actually, 14th day, maybe the ovulation has happened. So 14th, 15th, and maybe the 16th day, till that the ovum is going to wait for the fertilization to happen. Otherwise, if the fertilization is not happening, the ovum gets disintegrated in that region. Okay. Now, when the fertilization is happening, it means the sperm is there in this region. Okay. Now, how does the ovum looks like? If I draw the diagram of the ovum, it's a microscopic structure, right? It's having a nucleus inside it, that is a haploid nucleus. Okay. This ovum is actually surrounded by lot many layers of cell. It's not a all lone structure, it's surrounded by lot many layers of cell. And most of the books have mentioned the things in detail, but NCERT has just touched it in a very specific way, and they've just told you about the layer of cells that are known as the zona pellucida. That is known as the zona pellucida layer, right? So what is the zona pellucida? This is the layer that is surrounding the ovum. So if a sperm reaches this region, so this is one sperm that has reached this region, and if you remember the structure of the sperm on the top is having this structure on the head region, which is having some kind of hydrolytic enzymes are present in this region. Hydrolytic enzymes are someone which actually break down the cell membrane, okay? So hydrolytic enzymes are present in the region of the acrosome, in the region of the acrosome. And this region of the acrosome, it's just present in the head region of the sperm. Alright, so once the sperm reaches in this region, it penetrates inside the zona pellucida region across the membrane and liberates its gamete inside it. Now, I think this is clear, right? So what is there actually? This whole of the structure of the sperm doesn't enter the whole region. It is just through the zona pellucida part. It is actually only the nucleus part that is entering inside. And again, this nucleus is having half the number of chromosomes. It fertilizes with the half the number of chromosomes already present in the ovum. And that is how the first cell of the next generation, that is a zygote formation, happens. And that is having 2 in number of chromosomes. Okay. So now I think this is understood by you. So if you remember what's happening inside the ovary at that time, what's happening inside the uterus at that time. So during this time when the fertilization is happening, okay, if I talk about the uterus, if I talk about the ovary, and if I talk about what happens with the ovum during that time, right? So if I'm talking about the uterus part, yes, in that region, I'm talking about the time when the fertilization is happening. There's a much growth of the endometrium layer. right? With the endometrium having lot many amount of blood vessels inside it to supply it to the upcoming embryo formation. So you have the endometrium lining. What is there inside the ovary? Inside the ovary, you are having corpus luteum is there, right? What is this corpus luteum doing over there inside the ovary? This corpus luteum is providing progesterone, right? This progesterone. Now, the role of the progesterone hormone is actually to maintain this endometrium till the time the placenta formation has happened. What's happening to the ovum? This ovum, in coordination with the sperm, it forms what is known as with the help of a sperm, the gamete from the sperm, nucleus from the sperm, it forms a structure, a diploid structure that is known as a zygote. So in the uterus, in the ovary, to the ovum, what are things? These are happening in continuation, in together they are happening. All the things are happening in parallel to each other, okay? So make sure that when you are understanding the concept, you're understanding the whole things in continuation. That is why I showed you that graph also. In that graph, if the fertilization happens in this region, then the embryo formation will happen. And this embryo formation will lead to the formation of a zygote. So you have the N number from the ovum, N number from the sperm, and that is how it leads to the formation of the zygote. And how does it happen? The sperm's head is having a hydrolytic enzyme with it, and that is called the acrosome, that is known as. And this acrosome penetrates across the zona pellucida region, and it liberates its gamete. It liberates actually nucleus inside it, and both the nucleus they combine together to form the first cell of the next generation, and that is known as a zygote, that is known as, okay? So till here, I think the things are clear in your mind. Let me once again share another screen with you. Okay, so it's just getting, it's loading actually. Fine. Okay, so what we have understood till now, what we have learned till now, we talked about the male reproductive system, we talked about the seminiferous tubule, and we talked about the interstitial cell, how the spermatogenesis is happening. Then we talked about the ovary, female reproductive system. We talked about this whole system, the layer of the uterus. We talked about, okay, and then the structure of the ovary we have discussed, and then the process of the gametogenesis, where both the sperm and the ovum formation we have discussed. Okay. Now we are discussing what happens when the fertilization is happened. So obviously, when the fertilization has happened, there is a complete development of the endometrium that has happened, and this is how you can see. You can see this is the ovum inside it. Can you see the structure? This is the ovum inside it. Okay, ovum is surrounded by 2-3 different layers. Okay, these layers are actually protecting, serving as a nutrition for the ovum for a particular period of time. Okay, so it is there is a layer of a perivitelline space, like the pink color structure you can see surrounding the ovum. It's called the perivitelline space. It is known as. Then you have this layer of a zona pellucida, which I told you that is to be eroded by the sperm, and outside that you have the cells of a corona radiata are there. Okay, so you have a zona pellucida and you have the corona radiata, and there is some kind of a, you can say, the reaction that happens, okay, as soon as the sperm penetrate through the corona radiata, it reaches the zona pellucida region, okay, uh, it changes the membrane that is surrounding the ovum. This is very important point actually. So what is happening is that as soon as the sperm is able to erode through the zona pellucida region, it is again eroding, reaching the region of the perivitelline space, liberating its gamete over there. At that time, okay, there is some change in the permeability of the ovum, okay, that doesn't allow the rest of the sperm to enter this region. And that is how this ovum is preventing what is known as a polyspermy, that is known as a polyspermy. What is polyspermy? More than one sperms penetrating inside the ovum. So now you understood that what happens there, out of like they have given in the picture, they have given 3 sperms. Okay. So what is going to happen is that one sperm is going to erode through the corona radiata. It reaches up to the zona pellucida region. Again, the hydrotic enzymes are going to work over there. And then as soon as it erodes that region of the zona pellucida, the membrane permeability around the ovum it changes, right? So it doesn't allow rest of the other sperms to enter that region. So that is how the ovum is preventing the process of the polyspermy to happen. So it allows only one sperm to enter at that time. Okay. So whatever secretions are there from the sperm, it reaches inside, and finally the gamete moves inside, the nucleus moves inside the ovum, and actually the formation of the zygote has happened. Okay. So again, I've seen this diagram also coming in examination. And so this is a very simple diagram that explains you the process just before the fertilization. Now the fertilization what happened is just showing you ovum is surrounded by lot many number of gametes, sperm surrounded, but the fertilization has not yet happened. Okay. Fine. Now again, very interesting things are happening. Okay. As soon as the sperm is releasing its gamete and it is eroding through the zona pellucida region and the perivitelline space, the second meiotic division gets completed inside the ovum. Okay. And there is this formation of the second polar body. Okay. And the ovum. Ovum will be now known as a otid, it is known as OOTID. This is a name given to the last phase of the ovum just before the fertilization process. Okay. So if the question comes, what happens when the sperm, one of the sperms erodes the zona pellucida? There are two things happening. Okay. In the outer membrane region, it is the permeability of the membranes that are changing. Okay. So that the no new sperms are able to enter the region. That is how the ovum is preventing the polyspermy. Number 1 point. What is the second thing that is happening? Second thing, whenever the sperm reaches this, erodes this region of the zona pellucida, reaches the membrane part, inside the ovum also, the secretions from the sperm is able to complete the second meiotic division of and forming the secondary oocyte, okay? And this secondary oocyte, when completes, form, obviously it forms the second polar body also. Along with that, now the haploid ovum that is formed just before the fertilization process will be known as a otid. Okay. In general terms, you can always use the term ovum also. But you should be knowing that what that otid is. Otid is the last stage. Once the sperm secretion has entered the egg, okay, and the meiotic phase, second meiotic phase has got completed. The second polar body has formed. Now we name the ovum as otid, we known as, okay. The sperm along with the otid together, they become what is known as a zygote, that is known as. Fine. Okay. Now we know the sex determination. So we know if it is a male and a female, obviously there's always a 50-50% chance of either getting a male or a female. How that is happening? So every time the fertilization is happening, if you look at the sperms are of two types. It's a gamete, it is, right? Sperm is a gamete, right? It's sort of two types. Either it is going to have it is either X or it is Y. It's a gamete, either having X or it is having the Y, right? What about the egg or the ovum, right? This is going to have only X chromosome with it, right? So every time when the fertilization process is happening, okay, there are 50% chance that either this X is going to combine with this X. So there's a formation of a female child, or a female girl child will be produced, okay. And if there is if suppose X is combining with the Y, so obviously there's a development of a male child, right? So what does this mean? That every time the fertilization is happening, there are 50% chance that the female child will occur, and there are 50% chance that the male child. It's the equal chances of occurring male or a female, depending upon, because egg is of only one type. It is only have only X chromosome inside it. Depending upon what kind of a sperm has eroded the zona pellucida region. Depending upon what kind of a sperm has eroded the zona pellucida region, either you will have X type of a sperm, so it's a female, and if it's a Y type of a sperm, it is going to be the male. That is how the gender of the upcoming generation, that is a zygote, that is decided by, actually it is the sperm which decides the gender of a child, okay, not the egg. So, uh, Fine. So we have again the sex determination is an easy concept. We have understood this in the lower classes also. Okay. Now what happens next? Okay, the zygote formations happen. The zygote formation has occurred. Remember in the oviduct region. Okay. Now in the oviduct region, the zygote cannot stay there for a longer period of time because it starts developing. It starts the development at a very fast rate. Okay. So if the zygote is there, then my screen is still showing, it is loading, it is not yet shared actually. Just waiting for my screen to be shared. Just now it is showing, it is shared. Fine, okay. So if I'm talking about, I'm talking about the zygote, you can see the structure again, a very important diagram, and it explains so many things. Again, the detail of this, all things are not there in your textbook, but still you need to go through them, okay? So this is a one cell structure. This is in the oviduct region. It's actually ovum. It fuses and the egg and the sperm releases the nucleus inside. It forms a zygote. The next step immediately is known as the cleavage. It is known as CLEAVAGE, cleavage. Okay, and this is how now the cleavage say the through the isthmus region from the ampulla to the isthmus. Now the zygote starts moving, and it is now reaching towards the nucleus. So you can see this is the A, this is B, this is C. So till that part C part, it has actually started moving towards the uterus region because now it needs to be implanted. And when it is moving and rolling down, actually, it is dividing also. It's not a complete division. It's a holoblastic cleavage we talk about, okay? And it forms number of daughter cells like 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells. And these daughter cells which are being formed like this, then like this, then like this. These all of the daughter cells are being formed. The size remains the same, but only keeps on dividing, okay? Every cell is known as a blastomere, it is known as. Remember the term. So as and when the zygote is moving from the isthmus region, it is reaching towards the uterus in this region. It is actually dividing. And what that division known as? It's known as the cleavage. And through the division, different number of daughter cells are being formed. And these daughter cells are pronounced as a blastomeres. These are okay. So almost like 2, number 8, 4, number 8, number 16, number. Until that time, it keeps on rolling down. Actually, it is a rolling process with the ciliated apparatus present in that region. It is happening. Okay. Till the time it reaches this region, maybe around this point of region, you can see E over here written and E over here written. It is still in the region of the ending part of the oviduct region. It is now 8 to 16 cell ball-like structure. It is okay. And this 8 to 16 ball-like structures with the blastomeres inside it is known as a morula. This is known as this is the morula stage. This is not yet reach the uterus. It is somewhere in the last stages of the oviduct. It's become just a ball-like structure. It has become, and that is called the morula. That is known as this morula is going to have the blastomeres inside it. Nearly 8 to 16 blastomeres are present in this morula region, and morula keeps rolling down, and finally it leads to the formation of the blastocyst. And blastocyst is the stage at which this is the blastocyst. Can you see over here this G part? E was the morula state from 8 to 16. Again, it keeps on dividing. It's the mitotic division that's happening, okay? It keeps on dividing. And finally, you have the arrangement of the cells in the form of in the outer peripheral region and the inner mass region. This is the inner mass part, and this is the open cavity formed in between. This stage is a stage at which the implantation occurs. Remember, okay? Now, what is that implantation? On the wall of the uterus, if you remember, we have read in this in the menstruation cycle that endometrium keeps on developing, and because there's a release of the progesterone from the corpus luteum happening that maintains the endometrium lining, okay? And when this stage is occurred till the blastocyst region, this blastocyst come down to the uterus part, and over there it meets this lining of the uterus that is and it gets impregnated inside. That literally leave it literally goes inside the endometrium lining. It's like a parasitic invasion, it is okay. And when it moves inside like that, it's that process is known as the implantation process. After that, the mixing of the cell happens. It takes a control of the blood vessels coming from the region of the endometrium, and that's how the supply from the mothers and starts, and the embryo is getting the full supply of the blood and the nutrition, oxygen, and everything, and that's how the growth of the embryo is happening. Okay. in our syllabus for the 12th standard, the development of the embryo is only till this region only, okay, from the blastocyst part only. And in the blastocyst part, we have outer layers getting arranged in the form of a trophoblast, and then you have the inner layer get known as the inner mast cell, okay. And obviously, this inner mast cell is the structure that actually becomes an embryo. So examination may we have till this, then you have the different stages are there after this stage shift, complete embryo for the 9 months of period, there's a development happening, but that is not in the course of your 12th standard, it's not in the course. So you just try to understand this phase. I'll just once again share my white screen to show you the trophoblast and the inner mass that going to make you very clear. Okay, so till the stage of 8 to 16 cells. Now, what are these cells known as? These cells are known as the blastomeres. These are known as, right? These 8 to 16 blastomere cells, okay, we use the name morula for them. How will morula look like? It looks like a ball-like structure having different type of 8 to 16 cells inside it. 8 to 16, I'm not making all the cells, but just remember it is 8 to 16 cells and there's a morula stage. What happens after this? From the morula stage, the division keeps on happening and the things reaches the place of the uterus. And over there, we say that the formation of blastocyst has happened. Right now, this blastocyst is what? Is the structure like that? Division is again happening, keeps on happening. And there is some kind of a differentiation, or you can say the movement of the cell that is happening. And there are a group of cells that just, sorry, there are, let me just draw it once again for you. Yeah. So you have the part of the cells which will take up the things like this. It will take up the things like this. It'll start arranging itself. It starts arranging itself on the outer membrane region. Okay. These cells are known as the trophoblast cells. Right? And remember, the trophoblast cells are not the part of the growing embryo. It is just the inner cell. ये वाले जो cells होते हैं अंदर की तरफ, ठीक है, blastocyst में, जिन्हें बोला जाता है, we say that these are the inner mast cells. What are they given the name? They are given the name inner mast cell. This inner mast cell, the cells inside them actually forms the embryo part. Okay, you need to remember this thing. And which stage we are talking about? We are talking about the blastocyst stage. And this blastocyst stage is present in which region? It is present in the uterus part. Right? And remember, where is the morula located? Morula is located almost in the last regions of the oviduct. You can see the difference. This morula was just 8 to 16 cell. It keeps on increasing in number. It becomes 1,000 cell in number, okay? And most of the cells, part of the cell, they get arranged in the peripheral region, and we give them the name of the trophoblast cell. Trophoblast cells never forms the embryo. It is the rest of the cells that are located on one pole of this ovum, and that is called the inner mast cells, which actually becomes an embryo and leads to the formation of the embryo, okay? And this is what is known as the cavity part. This is the cavity region is there. Fine. So you have the blastocyst that is present in the uterus region, okay? And you have the morula that is located in the oviduct part, okay? Fine. I think till here the things are clear. And one more concept is left, okay? Tomorrow we can take over this concept and the concept of the placentation and some kind of an embryo development. A little bit of things are there. You don't have things in very much of detail, okay? A little bit things are there. So I'll conclude this chapter tomorrow, okay? Thanks for joining everyone. Thank you.